Hey guys, welcome back here to Advanced Bass Fishing, and appreciate you guys coming by the channel to check out today's episode. Guys, today we're going to be talking about how current affects bass. And a lot of people think when you're talking about current that, it's like a river system or something where you got this visible current, and that does play an impact on fish. But I want to talk about every single level of current, some current that is created by different factors that people aren't aware of, how it positions the fish, baits they bite the best. So we're going to get into that today's episode. And also, even if you have a lake that doesn't have current moving through it naturally, you still have current in a lake, and I'm going to explain in here in today's video here. Also, guys, before we get started, one quick thing here. I just wanted to remind you guys, I've talked about this a little on my other channel. One of my favorite baits for fishing in the month of January, guys, is this Mega Bass Dark Sleeper. This is a keel-weighted swim bait that's designed to fish on the bottom. You don't reel this thing like a swim bait. You hop it on the bottom like a jig. This thing is deadly for cold water bass. So I'll put this in my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of the video if you guys would like to try one. And just fish it on any main lake or secondary point in about 10 to 20 foot of water. You'll get some good fish in the wintertime on it, so appreciate that. Okay, current is something that you're gonna have to deal with even if you don't think you're having to deal with it. Because if you fish any type of a man-made lake or a natural lake, even for that matter of fact, you're going to be dealing with current to some extent. Now, some lakes have more natural current than others. Let's say, for example, if you fish the Coosa River lakes in Alabama, like Logan Martin Lake and Lay Lake and those lakes down there, Neely Henry, those lakes have a lot of current running through them. When they generate power on the upper end of the lake, there's a tremendous amount of current that runs through the whole system. That's like one end of the extreme. And then you may have a natural body of water that doesn't have any evidence of any current running through it. But if you have wind creates current. Wind will generate current. So you have current in any type of body of water out there, and every level of current is going to affect the fish. Now, one of the things you're going to find out is if you have a lake that doesn't have consistent current in it, like the Coosa River lakes I'm talking about, the current moves every day. But if you fish a lake like Lake Lanier in Georgia or Sam Rayburn or any of the Ozark lakes around here, the only current that you really have is what is done through the generation schedules. And those generation schedules don't necessarily pull a lot of water. There's a small amount of current when they're generating, and then sometimes, like if the lake's coming up and starting to flood out, they'll open some floodgates and you generate more current. But in a situation like that, you don't have it's not the same type of current that you have in more of a river lake current. So regardless, anytime that you have current movement, especially if the current does not move consistently, it usually always activates the fish. And what happens on this is it's not just the current that activates the bass. I think it activates the whole food chain. It activates, the algae and plankton floating around in the water, and the bait fish that follow it are moving and active, and the bigger fish, follow suit with that. So the whole ecosystem underwater sort of gets more active with current. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about how you want to fish it. How you want to fish current has a lot to do with the velocity of the current, because if you're fishing current that is like pretty slight current, like say for example, you throw out a bobber on the water and you watch it for 10 minutes, you may know it may slowly be moving, just barely moving. There is some current moving there, but that's not much of a current. It's not like some current like in, Logan Martin Lake, where it's just going to zip down the lake when they're pulling current. So the level of current will dictate your technique and your approach with that. If you're fishing a place that has heavy current on it, you have got to fish some type of a current break. That current break can be some type of an eddy, like behind an object, like a log or a rock in the water. It could be how the river bends and turns in a certain way, anything to block the current. And sometimes the current can be blocked underwater where you can't see it. So sometimes you can see visual current breaks and sometimes you can't, but you have to concentrate on that, because in a significant current situation, when you're having a 2 or 3 or 4 mile an hour current, those fish are going to be in those eddy areas. That's just where they're going to live. They're not going to fight that current. Now, say for example, if you got a lay down tree in the water and you see current coming through it, the obvious places are going to be on the back side of that tree, but there may be something underwater that's blocking the current that you don't see. So you have to be, pretty, thorough with fishing all around that. But when you're fishing heavy current, the best bait, guys, is some type of a heavier jig or heavier Texas rig. It's like, I don't catch hardly anything on a moving bait in a body of water that has a significant current. I'm usually using a 1/2 ounce or 3/4 ounce jig, or like a 3/8 to half ounce creature bait or something on a slip sinker that falls pretty quick. And I'm pitching it and flipping it around those eddy areas. Now, as the current diminishes a little bit, and say that you've got just a light current, say they're pulling a little bit of water through the dam, you're fishing the mid part of the lake and you notice a little bit of current movement, but not much. Or say, for example, if you're next to a bridge piling and you see just a tiny, tiny little bit of current on that, in a situation like that, the bass can be anywhere. They don't have to have a current break in a light current. So it doesn't matter what you're fishing. If you're fishing, a dock or lay down tree or a drop off or a ledge or anything like that, don't worry about having to target eddy areas, because those eddy areas are, number one, you can't see them as good. Number two, the bass don't need them for that. But this is the prime situation that I like. It's like when you're in a situation where your boat control is easier and you don't have to fish eddy breaks, this is when your moving baits are going to be good. This is a good time to fish like a crankbait, like a deep diving crankbait or a spinner bait or a swim bait. Some type of a moving bait always works better for the fish in a lighter current than a slow bait does. That's a big thing with that. And it's the same with wind generated current. It's like when you have wind generating current, that's usually a lighter current. And again, those fish are not going to really be behind those eddies, near as much. But regardless, guys, current is your friend. Current is a good thing. It usually always makes the fish bite better. And I have had some really good success on fishing heavy current areas, but I don't like to, because it's a pain in the butt. It's like, I don't like to fish into the current. I like to go with the current because it's quieter. But sometimes if they're pulling too much water, you can't do that. The water's moving too fast and you have to get up and fight that current, and you get hung up a lot easier with your bait drifting in there. So I'm sort of a fan of a light current situation more than anything else. But anyway, guys, that's just a few tips about fishing current. Hope it helps you out, and we'll check in later. See you.